Welcome to Bryer CD Showcase. I'm Bryer Cisneros, and welcome back to the final episode of my updated CD collection series. So, as you can see, I guess you can say these are the leftovers, I guess. That's probably not a good way to describe it, but they kind of are. But basically what this is, these are just all the CDs that I didn't mention in the main, the main series. So I guess you can call this an epilogue episode. So I'll explain why these weren't mentioned before, and I'll probably do it now while I'm here. So mainly it's because of the packaging, because if we just take a standard jewel case, so for example, I just grabbed my Top Gun soundtrack just to compare, and as you can see, some of these packaging don't really look good on a shelf, in my opinion. So say we have like this one. So as you can see, for one, it's a bit not the same length as a standard jewel case. So there you go, you can see a little better. And also it's a little bit taller, so it doesn't really work to me. And you have some of them that come in these like very skinny LP replicas. So again, it doesn't really work, especially this one, because this one's very tall. Then you have some more weird packaging, like of course this one here. So that's one reason. The other reason is because, say if we take this one, now I guess I could have put it in there, but the problem is, if you recall in part 2, then you saw those shelves that go vertical. And if I were to put something like this in there, let's just say it would look kind of stupid. So that's kind of why I left it out. There's like other reasons, like obviously because they come in a box, so obviously that doesn't work. So regardless, before I begin, make sure you leave a like on the video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you're new. And if you've noticed, I'm actually in my living room tonight. Usually I'm doing this in my room, but I thought, why not change it up? Of course, my cats are walking about, so if you see them, go ahead and leave a like for them as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I'm going to try to get through these quickly. So I guess I'll start with these, and I'm not going to go in alphabetical order this time because obviously that'll be a lot of work. Anyhow, let's do it. So first up we have Injustice for All by Metallica. So this is kind of like an LP replica, I think. So open it up, you got that. So this one's pretty notorious among bass players because this is every bass player's worst nightmare. Because what happened, this is the first album with their then bassist Jason Newsted, who replaced their late bass player Cliff Burton. But they didn't, like the rest of the band didn't really give him a nice welcome, because what happened, like lead singer James Hetfield and drummer Lars Ulrich decided to just turn off Jason's bass to the point where they're just inaudible. So definitely not a good welcome to their new bass player, but it's still pretty well regarded among fans. Some good songs. Of course, it has one, which is pretty notable song here. To Live Is To Die, Blackened, Dyer's Eve. Yeah, a very strong album, despite the lack of the lower parts. Okay, from here, and there goes one of my cats here. If you recall, actually, this is the one that got injured not long ago. She needed stitches, but she's doing good now. So, come on, let's bring you down. Just give me one more huggy. One more hug. Anyhow, moving on. So this next one, this is an interesting one. So this is Linkin Park, and this is live recordings featuring the best of Project Revolution 2007. So the story behind this one. So my uncle once gave me this kind of Linkin Park collector's box. I'm guessing it's only for like fan clubs or something like that. So it came with this, which is I guess like an EP of sorts, and it also came with a shirt, which was too small, so I couldn't wear it anyway. So I still kept this. Again, I'm not sure what this is. So if there are any bigger Linkin Park fans out there, let me know what this is from. I'd like to know. Then we have another Midnight Oil album, which comes in this replica. You have Blue Sky Mining, which is still a very strong album. This is the follow-up to Diesel and Dust. So still a very good album. Again, I do want to get more of these of their albums because I'm becoming a big fan of this band. Okay, then we have the Beatles Revolver. Now this one's kind of interesting. This is actually a US album recreation, and what I mean by that, this is actually supposed to replicate the US version of this album. Now you're probably thinking, what's the difference? Well, the problem is this leaves out some songs from the UK, so it's not technically the full album. It's kind of just a shortened version of it. So I do plan to get like a different version of it, probably the 2009 remaster of it. Of course, I heard they're actually coming out with a remix coming soon, which should be pretty exciting. But yeah, I'm keeping this mainly for collecting purposes, but yeah, I do want to get a new copy at some point. Okay, from here we go to Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti, which comes in this pretty cool packaging. So if you actually take everything out, there we go. You actually take out the windows. I think it's kind of like how the original album was, which is pretty cool. I like the attention to detail they did here. Okay, from here we go to Paul McCartney. Now I showed off Flaming Pie earlier, but I do have another one, and that's Egypt Station. I actually got this around the same time it came out, so this is actually pretty cool packaging because it actually expands this full artwork. There you go. Hopefully you can see the whole thing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Paul McCartney actually made this himself, which is pretty cool. And then on the other side you just have all the lyrics. But pretty cool. This is actually the same length as my arm. Ain't that cool? Ain't that interesting? I just found that out right now. So yeah, it's a pretty good album. Yep, Paul McCartney, yeah, he's getting there in age, but you know, he still sounds pretty good here, in my opinion. Put those over there. Okay, let's go for these. Again, they could have been the collection, but you know, the placement just wasn't in its favor. Okay, we have the debut Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, which I really do like the cover. I like that little, I guess should be, I think it's like a dove, I think. Pretty cool. Very strong debut. I do want to get more at some point, but you know, they're pretty expensive, I must say, and they always come in these 2 CD packs. So here's the full cover, by the way, which has a head. Probably will get Tarkus next at some point. And then I have Iron Maiden with their latest album, Senjutsu, which is pretty cool. It has this Japanese theme to it. Of course, you have the mascot Eddie as a samurai. And again, look at this. Like, this is really cool. I mean, you gotta love Iron Maiden and their presentation. Again, many people are kind of hit or miss with these later Iron Maiden albums because, you know, they're kind of going for these longer songs, these big epics, which many people are starting to get tired of. I don't mind it so much, but I totally get it. Okay, next, let's go for these ones here. So these are the skinny packaging. So first up, let's talk about Emperor and the Nightside Eclipse, which is a black metal album and probably one of my favorites. It incorporates a lot of symphonic elements to it, so pretty cool. I dig it. And then we have this one, which needs no further introduction. It's one of my favorite albums of all time, and that's Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. I mean, this album got me through high school, so that alone just has a special place in my heart. Okay, next we have, let's see, The Battle at Garden's Gate by Greta Van Fleet. Now, I showed off their EP in a previous episode, and this is my other thing I have of them. So this is their second album, so this is the follow-up to the first one, which I don't own yet. I might get soon, but not in a huge rush. So this is actually a very good album. I know they get a lot of flack because they sound pretty similar to Led Zeppelin, but I don't think it's inherently a bad thing. And on this album, they're kind of starting to expand sonically, which is pretty cool. They do a lot of good stuff in here. They still have that Zeppelin feel, but you can definitely tell they're starting to branch out a bit more, which is pretty cool. So I think you should check this out if you haven't yet. Speaking of Led Zeppelin, we have, of course, their debut album, which again needs no further introduction. A very influential album in the hard rock and what will become heavy metal genre. Great stuff here. And here's another Beach Boys album. We have Surf's Up. So this was 1971. By this point, the Beach Boys' popularity has gone down tremendously, not really selling a whole lot. But in that period, they were still making some great music. And this is actually another one of their great albums, in my opinion. So Brian Wilson, he's not really as involved, but he still contributes a little bit. Carl Wilson actually writes a bit of songs here. I know he wrote Long Promised Road, and I forgot which other song he wrote, but I know they were pretty good songs. The title track's great closing track. Disney Girls is actually a pretty cool song. It's actually a song written by Bruce Johnston. So if you're not familiar with the 70s Beach Boys, I must say, go check this out. You might be impressed what you're missing out. Okay, next we have Lindsey Buckingham and Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac with their solo album, their solo duo album, if you want to call it that. So what's interesting about this is the closest we'll ever get to a reunion with the classic Fleetwood Mac lineup, of course, with Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. Of course, this does not have Stevie Nicks on here, but you do get Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. So again, it could have been another Fleetwood Mac album with the most popular lineup, but didn't happen, and frankly, I don't think will ever happen again. But never say never. But yeah, I think this is a pretty strong album. Of course, probably my favorite songs in here are sung by Christine McVie. Personally, she's my favorite member of Fleetwood Mac, but that's just me. But I think this is still a pretty decent album. Okay, another classic one. We have Don McLean, American Pie. Title track is just another classic song. Absolutely deserves the accolades it gets. I know they recently made a documentary on Paramount Plus, I think, about them really breaking down the song, which should be pretty cool. I want to watch that at some point. Okay, Ramones, another classic in the punk genre. So if you like punk, why have you not listened to this yet? Of course, I'm assuming you have. So yeah, great stuff. Okay, Steve Perry, Traces. This is actually his most recent album with all new material. This came out in 2017, I think. And this is a great one. I think Steve sounds really good here. This is his first album in decades. But he came back with this one. I think it's a very strong one. I think it's a good one. I think it's worth checking out if you're a Steve Perry fan. And then we have Belinda Carlisle, Heaven on Earth. Of course, the title track is great 80s pop tune, and everything else is pretty good as well. Yeah, I like it. All right, let's go to these. So we have these little, I've shown these out before, but we have these little collection box sets which has 5 of their albums. So we have the Doobie Brothers. So I'm not going to take them out just to save us time, but if you can see, it has all 5 of those albums. So you have Toulouse Street, Captain Me, what were once vices are now habits. Then you have Stampede and Taking to the Street. Then we have this one for the Monkees, which has basically their first 5 albums. So you have the self-titled, More of the Monkees, Headquarters, my favorite one currently, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Ltd. And then you have the Birds, the Bees, and the Monkees, which personally is my least favorite in here. And then finally we have this Journey one. Of course, we talked about Steve Perry earlier. So this has 5 albums. So you have Infinity, Evolution, Escape, Frontiers, and Raised on Radio. So yeah, there's plenty of these types out there. So if there's one you'll find, I recommend you check these out. Unless you really want to try and find the individual CDs, then that's probably something I would do. But again, they're a good bundle for your buck, basically. Okay, then let's go to this one. We have King Crimson with Lark's Tongues and Aspic, and another prog rock classic here. again, like the guitar work, especially on the first song, which is Lark's-Tongue Aspect Part 1. Like, geez, like what a heavy tone Robert Fripp has. Like, so, like it totally makes it, like when I first heard it, like it was like completely shook me. Like, holy crud, I wasn't expecting that. But this is a terrific album. So if you're getting to progressive rock, then this is definitely a must listen. Okay, let's go for these Saxon ones next. So these are pretty cool. Kind of like that Kate Bush album I showed, which was 50 Words for Snow. Like that one, Saxon comes in these like hardcover like book types, which is very cool. Let me showcase this one because this one came first. But yeah, so you open it up, so you have pictures here. They have like photos of like poster art. They have the lyrics, of course, with the credits, and then at the very end you have the CD itself. So very cool. So I have 2 Saxons so far. We have Wheels of Steel and Denim and Leather. Like great, like early 80s heavy metal. Of course, this was during the new age of British heavy metal. So yeah, really enjoy these. Definitely want to get more Saxon at some point because yeah, great stuff. Okay, almost done. Let's go for these box sets here. Again, I'm not going to take them out because, you know, just want to save us time. But we have the Bad Company, the Swan Song years, 1974 to 1982, which I've shown before. It has the first 6 albums in one collection. So if I just open it up, so it comes in like these types of things. These like kind of to replicate the original LP. So this includes the self-titled debut, Straight Shooter, Run with the Pack, Burning Sky, Desolation Angels, and Rough Diamonds. And if you flip this over, hopefully you can see. So I recommend you check that out if you want to get Bad Company pretty quick. And then we have this one, ZZ Top. So this has 10 albums. So quite a lot for a good price, I must say. So 1970 and 1990. So of course on the back, this is what I include. You can kind of see what it has. So it has ZZ Top's first album, Rio Grande Mud, Tres Hombres, Fandango, Tejas, which is my favorite personally, Degueo, El Loco, Eliminator, which was a big hit for them, Afterburner, and Recycler. And then finally, last thing we're going to talk about is this one right here. So this is Pink Floyd Discovery. So this is cool because it has pretty much every album up to the Division Bell. So let's go ahead and go through these really quick. So you have the first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Took me a bit to get used to it because again, it's very psychedelic, but I grew to appreciate it over time. We have Sauce for Full Secrets, the last with Syd Barrett. Then you have More, which is the soundtrack, the film More. Then you have Ummagumma, which is kind of a weird experimental album. You know, at this point they were kind of like, didn't really have a good direction to go in. They were kind of just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what stuck. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I think this one turned out pretty good. I know the band aren't huge into this one, but I kind of like it. Adam Heartmother. Then they would come to their senses for this one, Metal, which has Echoes, which is a prog rock classic. There goes another one of my cats here. That's Peppercorn. If you kind of see her tail, hopefully. Okay, we have Obscured by Clouds, which is another soundtrack. But then they would hit it big as Pepper comes on board. We have Dark Side of the Moon. Again, another one of those albums that need no introduction. Again, sold cajillion copies, and definitely deservedly so. She's just curious. Okay, and then they followed up with Wish You Were Here, which is another terrific album. Then Animals. And The Wall, which is currently my favorite. I mean, this is kind of like what I said with Pet Sounds. This album kind of got me through high school, so has a special place in my heart. And then they followed up with the final cut, you know, which is basically just a Roger Waters solo album. It's okay. And then Roger's out of the band, he quits, and then after a lot of lawsuits, they finally released Momentary Lapse of Reason with David Gilmour pretty much at the helm with Richard Wright and Nick Mason. Another okay album. And then I have the Division Bell. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, didn't you already show the Division Bell earlier? Well, I did, yes. And kind of a little story behind this one. So I got this used, and some of the CDs didn't really come in pretty good condition, so this one kind of got the worst of it. Everything else is fine. Everything plays fine here, but then with this one, again, I looked at it. There's actually a couple scratches on here, so it doesn't really work that well. So that's why I kind of had to go out and get another copy, which is the one you saw in a previous episode. And I still have it, solely because it kind of feels kind of weird not having it in here. But yeah, that's the Division Bell. Again, like I said before, I think this should have been the final Pink Floyd album. Again, I know they released the Endless River, but it's kind of like a if you just want a little bit more, then you have that. But I'm not really in a rush to get the Endless River at this point. Okay, so I'll put these away after. But there you have it. That is officially every CD I have in this collection. So this is over like 600 CDs in total. So just want to give a quick thanks to all of you who watched pretty much every episode of this series. This took a lot of time, and especially time, but hopefully you enjoyed this. This was definitely a lot of fun, kind of just reflecting on how the collection is built over time. And I do kind of recommend you watch my original CD collection series back 2 years ago now, so you can kind of see where the collection was then, and then see how it changed now. So again, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, then please give it a like. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye for now. How you doing, Sauce? How you doing? Yes, you just want some pets, do you? That's right, you just want pets. What about you, Peanut? You want pets too? You want pets too, Peanut? That's right, yes you do.